Welcome to 304 Customs Garage. In this episode, I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to run my HEDMAN Fenderwell headers under our truck frame using these 4 90-degree pieces, 2 for each side. And we're going to be using some vband flanges on these as well so we can make a detachable exhaust system because I plan to run some cutouts and mufflers on this truck in the future. I'm going to show you how to do it and the parts that we're going to use. Let's get started. Okay, so reason for doing this video, I actually wasn't even going to do this video. This is a topic that's probably been covered on YouTube. I know there's at least 1 or 2 other videos covering the similar topic. And I figured I would just go ahead and do my version. It's part of my build log anyway. Kind of keeping a little document of everything I'm doing to this truck for future reference too. But as you can see, one of the main reasons is really starting to get some surface rust on these, and didn't really want to paint them, and I want them to look nice under the hood with the orange and the black that I'm going for, and the chrome and the polished aluminum look. So I think having these coated will look really nice. Plus, I want to run an exhaust system on these as well, but I don't want it on the outside of the frame. I want it underneath, back towards the back, like most normal exhaust systems go. Okay, so I'm going to send these out to get ceramic coated, and the company I'm going to use is called Jet Hot. I talked to them last year, early spring, and I forget what it was, but it wasn't cheap. And I'm hoping it holds up well, but I think it'll look really nice. From their website, it looks like they have a lot of nice coatings there. And the one in particular I'm going to be going with is called like a classic polish, and it should look similar to these how you're hanging on the wall. This nice chromed look. It doesn't have the heat rating that some of the other coatings they offer do, but I think it'll be fine for my intended application, and that's the one I've selected. So let's go ahead and take a look at what parts we're going to be using, and then we'll get started in the cutting and welding. Okay, so what I have here is everything you need for one side of your headers to under the cab exhaust. And what these are 3-inch mild steel 90-degree bends. I purchased these from Speedway Motors. And then we have our V-band flange and our V-band clamp. These were purchased from a place called Ace Race Parts. It's a website I found online searching for these to see if I could find a cheaper price. And that's who I ended up selecting because I liked the options that they had. They have different sizes, different grades of metal, and different styles. These in particular that I selected are the kind that have the lip inside. I like these better. If you've messed with these a lot, you'll know what I mean. Some of them are flat, but I like this style better. And these ones in particular also have a lip inside, if you can see that right there where my thumb is. You can put your exhaust piece down in there for when you weld it. It gives you a place to put your pipe down on. Now this is mild steel too. As you see, there's a little bit of surface rust on it there. And then my reasoning for selecting that was I wanted the same materials, the headers and these elbows that we're going to be using in the exhaust. So that's everything you need for that to get the exhaust under the cab and pointed backwards. I'm going to go mock this up real quick and show you what I mean and how we're going to use these, and then we're going to take the collector off and start cutting. Okay, so if you have these HEDMAN Fenderwell headers, you know that these are slip fit and they're just held on by those bolts and brackets on each side of the primary and the collector side of that. We'll address that later. But what we're going to do is end up cutting this collector up here somewhere, and that reasoning for that is so we can get this bend here that goes under the frame as tight as possible to this little arch that's here on the frame. So we'll end up cutting the collector up high, and then we're going to cut this down here once we figure out where it needs to be exactly before we snake it under the frame. And we'll probably have to angle it a little bit also by the looks of it. But when we get to that point, we're going to end up cutting this piece as well, so then we can hopefully be able to put it through this hole there for the transmission cross member. You see that little arch there? That's the nice thing about that transmission cross member mount. It has that on each side, and that's where we're going to run the exhaust pieces back through. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the socket, take these bolts out, and get this collector off, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I decided to start with the passenger side actually. It looked like it was going to be a little more difficult for some reason, but maybe I'm just thinking that in my head. So what I did was I went ahead and cut the collector off. I would say probably 2 inches or so, 2 1/4, 2.5 inches. And I went ahead and cut one of the 90s as well. And after I had cut the collector, I held the 90 up and seeing how tight I could get it to where it would be at an angle to where I could get the other longer piece on the 90 cut and point it towards the back. So I went ahead and did that, and I just tacked it in a couple different places for now. And what I'm going to do is go and fit this up, and we'll take a look and see how close it is, and then we'll go ahead and make our marks for this piece here. So then we can go ahead and cut this piece as well after we get this on. So let's go over here and fit this up, and then we'll get it marked so we can make our other cut. So I've put the collector back on, and as you can see here, I'm almost into the primary section here with my little arch in the frame. What I've also done is also went ahead and cut this 90 piece here in a section where it'll allow me to point this piece here back underneath the truck, and we'll point it towards the rear of the truck. This should be almost a straight shot back under the little arch in the transmission cross member. So I'm going to go ahead and fit this up, mark it, and we'll cut it and clean the ends up and start putting this together. Okay, so I went ahead and finished this side. So I welded the other 90 piece here that comes back towards the rear of the truck, and I went ahead and put the V-band flange on as well. Like I said, you're going to want that tight as possible. It is pretty close to the frame up there, and I have it fairly straight. I may have to use a 30 or a 45 degree angle piece in the exhaust somewhere when I get there, but I'll worry about that later. For right now, it's going to at least allow me to run the exhaust piece back under the transmission cross member here, and it'll be fairly straight till we get to the back towards the cab, at the rear of the cab. And like I said, we'll address that at a later time. In the meantime, I'm going to go over here and work on the driver's side piece, since that piece seemed like it might have been easier. Maybe not, maybe it's about the same. And we'll be right back. Okay, so driver's side, similar concept. I went ahead and angled it under the frame and then used it as a reference. But on this one, I actually used like the pipes for the other one to know about where to cut it. I used the passenger side, but you could do the same if you start with the driver's side. And actually, looking at it, they're within like probably a 1/4 inch difference lengthwise in them, which is fantastic in my opinion. Don't know how that worked out, but I'm satisfied with it. We'll take a look at both of them here in a second, and that's how you do it. As you said, I went ahead and welded the V-band flanges on as well. And now I have 2 exhaust pieces that come off the collectors from the headers. They go into the frame for an exhaust that's detachable. So let's take a look here. I'm going to slide under the truck a little further, and we'll take a look at both pieces on. All right, so there's both pieces. The only thing that I will say, like I said, they're about a 1/4 inch or so difference in length, which is really, you wouldn't be able to tell unless you actually measured it. The passenger side, it's kind of hard to tell from the video, but it actually hangs a little bit lower than the driver's side over here. But they're both at least higher than the frame, and that's the way I wanted it. The passenger side, however, it does hang about halfway with the frame, which is fine. Maybe that's how it works. But the driver's side over here, this one here, it's like tucked as tight as can be to the frame here. Don't think that'll be any issues with ground clearance. I know it's on dollies now, but even on the ground, it's going to be fine. So we'll jump up here and we'll take a look at these primaries, because that's something else I wanted to address in this video, which I'm not going to cover in the video, but we get some ideas of what I need to do there. Talk to Jet Hot again and see what they think, and then we'll make a decision on that later before I send them out. But let's go up here and take a look at these, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. Okay, so if you have these headers, this is a dilemma that I have here. Is, do you weld these primary tubes into the collector, since they're just bolt-on and slip fit, and will the coating get inside there when I send these to Jet Hot to coat the outside of the primary tubes that go down into the collector here? Does it matter that that little piece there is not going to be coated, I guess? Or should I let them get coated and then find some kind of like high temp silicone or exhaust seal, some kind of stuff to put inside here, and then put them back together and bolt them on and leave them slip fit? That's a good question I have. If anyone knows, please let me know in the comments. I'll be sure to call Jet Hot and ask them what they think about this as well. But there's a YouTuber, TPV Productions is his name, and he commented on the video I did the first time I got these headers, and I said something about these leaking that I had read, and apparently they do leak, and I think his leaked as well. He ended up welding his, which I think helped a lot with them not leaking exhaust. So I may do that. If you haven't checked out any of his stuff, I'd recommend checking that out. He's got a lot of good information out about S10s and similar things. He did wrap his exhaust, I believe, under the frame too. One of the last videos I saw about his exhaust. Check it out. He has a lot of good information out. Like I said, I think he's tried a couple different exhaust setups, and he did his a little bit different from what I remember. Don't think he sent his out for coating, but maybe he did. But check it out. It's probably on his videos, on his playlist or something. And in the meantime, if you have any questions about what I did here, if you have any suggestions about what we should do here, let me know in the comments. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button. Follow us. We have a lot more content to come. We're getting closer to getting this thing done. Getting these headers done was a big check mark off the list for this engine. Next, in some of the future videos, we'll be covering some subscriber requests for videos, and then we'll also be doing some more body work and stuff, and then I have some interior projects that, like I said in the previous video, that we're going to be doing. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you next time, YouTube.